Hi there, welcome back to my channel. My name is Shelby and today I'm going to be doing my weekly reading wrap up from December 10th to the 16th. I read a total of 5 books this week and I did manage to get in a historical fiction, so actually 2 historical fictions, so I'm really excited about that because I have been slacking on those, so I will just hop right into it. The first book I read was an ebook that I got off of my Kindle Unlimited called Just Add Mistletoe by Addison Moore. I had never read anything by this author before, but I was really in the mood for a Christmas book, and this one seemed to be full of Christmas. It takes place in a town called Gingerbread, Colorado, and the main character's name is Mistletoe, aka Missy, and her sister Holly, they own a bakery, and it is Christmas time, so they're super busy. They are pretty stressed out though because this girl that they grew up with named Sabrina, her dad owns their business's building, and she is threatening that if she doesn't get her way with their business and getting free product and things like that, that she's going to have her dad raise the rent and they won't be able to afford that office space anymore for their business. And then in the meantime, Missy's best friends of her brother, so her brother Nick, his best friend's name is Graham, he's back in town from New York and visiting for, I think, his family's business, and him and Missy do not get along, but over time together they start to spark a romance. But Missy made the mistake of setting Graham up with Sabrina to kind of get both of them out of her hair, and now she likes Graham and thinks it might be a mistake. So it is full of Christmas themed things, and the story was pretty predictable. I didn't really like it, didn't really like the characters. Overall it seemed really unrealistic. I gave it 2.5 stars, but it is full of like Christmas puns and things like that if you're looking for a really light Christmas read, but probably wouldn't recommend, and I'm glad I didn't pay any money for it. And then the next book that I read is The Girl Who Knew Too Much by Amanda Quick. I picked this up at a library sale, and this is kind of a mystery historical fiction. It takes place in the 1930s. The main character's name is Irene Glasson, and she was a secretary on the East Coast for a woman in a large house, and she comes home and the woman is dead, and in the blood it's written "run." So she gets in her car and she goes as far as she can away, which is Los Angeles, California. She changes her name to Irene Glasson. It was something else before, and she gets a whole new job, which is to be a writer for like a journal or something like that, journalist. And weird things keep happening. She keeps seeing people who are dead. She sees a coworker of hers dead. She discovers a dead body at a hotel, and she's trying to figure out who killed these ladies. And it seems they both have a connection to a famous actor who is also staying at that hotel. And she works with the hotel's owner, Oliver Ward, to discover what happened, and simultaneously she's still trying to remain anonymous because she's worried that whoever killed her previous employer are now out to get her. And also her and Oliver kind of have a romance going on, and I assume it will kind of bleed into the rest of the series, their romance. And this was a pretty good story. I thought it was written pretty like old school for like a mystery, and I did like the historical like old Hollywood vibe. I gave it 3.5 stars. I will continue with the series, but it definitely isn't like a favorite, but I thought it was really good, and I do like things set in old Hollywood for sure. And then after that I read an amazing book. Also, I got it at a library sale. I read 3 books this week that I got at a library sale, and it's called The Nightingale by Kristen Hanna. I usually don't love her books, but I've heard nothing but great things about this. It is not her normal genre. It is about sisters, which is something she does write about, but it is a historical fiction set in World War II France. So it is about these 2 sisters named Isabel and Vianne, and Vianne is about 10 years older than Isabel, and Isabel is 18 years old. And Vianne lives in the countryside. Her husband went off to war to fight for France, and her daughter are left at their hometown, and Nazis are just starting to occupy France. And Isabel, she gets kicked out of a boarding school, like a finishing school, and her dad says, "You can't stay with me in Paris, so go stay with your sister Vianne." So she goes to stay with her sister, and they're basically living in Nazi occupied France, and a Nazi stays with them because they have an extra room and they're close to all the things that need to be done for the Nazis. And Isabel, she wants to do something, she wants to fight back, so she cannot handle living with a Nazi under their roof, whereas Vienna is just trying to get by, take care of her daughter, and wait until her husband comes home. So Isabel leaves, and she actually starts being in like a revolt against the war. So she spreads like anti-Nazi propaganda, and she starts to take English and American downed pilots over the Pyrenees into Spain and smuggles them over the border. And she is called the Nightingale, and their last name, I forget what it is, but it means nightingale in French. And I thought it was a really good story. It was so touching. The story between the two sisters is just amazing, and the relationship. And this one made me cry at the end. Holy moly, it's so good. I gave it 5 stars. Would highly recommend, especially if you love stories about sisters or any kind of historical fiction. It was really, really good. And then after that, I read another good book, and I also got it at a library sale. It's called The Last Mrs Parish by Liv Constantine, and it is about a woman named Amber Patterson, and she is new to town. It's on the East Coast over by New York, I believe, and Bishop Harbor, Connecticut. She's new to town. She took a job that doesn't pay that great, but she has one determination. She has her sights set on a man who is an entrepreneur and a millionaire, maybe a billionaire, and she wants to be his wife and live the high life. His name is Jackson Parish, and he's quite a bit older than her, like 20 years older than her. The only problem is he has 2 kids, and he is married to his wife named Daphne Parish. And so Amber finds a way to become Daphne's friend by stalking her at the gym, and finds a way to even start working for Jackson, and she is determined to get them divorced so she can be his next wife. And so she manipulates them and interworks herself into their life, and it was a crazy ride. So half of it was through Amber's perspective, and the second half was through Daphne's perspective. And the story is not what it seems, and their life is not what it seems. And this was crazy and amazing, and I just love seeing into the mind of someone who's kind of like a sociopath. And I gave this 5 stars. I thought it was really good. I've seen this kind of story written before, but you know, no fault to this book that I've read that story before. But I really love this. And apparently it was one of Reese Witherspoon's like favorite recent reads, and I think it was one of her like book club picks, and it definitely was really good. Highly recommend. And then the last book this week that I read is another Christmas book, but this one is way better than just Add Mistletoe, and it's called Miss Mistletoe on 34th Street by Lisa Dickinson. I read another one of her books last month, and I loved it. She's a British author, and this is about a girl named Olivia. She works for this like women's business, and she needs to go to New York around Christmas time for her work conference and go with her coworkers, but her best friend, who is her coworker, is actually going to be in a tropical location, so she has to go without her, and she's pretty bummed that she's going to be going without her best friend. But luckily, one of her other really good friends, John, he works for another business that's going to be at the conference, so at least she'll have him. She isn't very Christmas spirited. She never grew up having a proper Christmas, and so when she gets there, John is convinced that he needs to make her soak in the Christmassy vibe, so they do all of these Christmassy things while they're there. But lo and behold, there's a snowstorm in England, and no flights are going out home, so they are going to be stuck there for Christmas, or at least like right up until Christmas. And John is definitely convinced he needs to show her around, but also Olivia meets a man named Elijah, who is from New York City. He's really good looking, he is a musician, and she starts going on dates with him while she's stuck there. But she's kind of torn because she likes John and she likes Elijah, and she doesn't really know what to do. And she kind of feels stuck and trapped. But she starts to realize that she really does like Christmas, and it puts her in the Christmas spirit. And she obviously makes a decision between the two guys, and I really liked her decision. I thought the story was so cute, and it definitely got me in the Christmas spirit. This is the kind of Christmas book I do like. It wasn't too cheesy, but it had just enough Christmas in it. I gave this one 4 stars, and I would highly recommend this author. I think her writing is really good, and it's really cute. It reminds me kind of like a Paige Toon or Sophie Kinsella, something like that. and I love how it took place in New York, and it just makes me really want to travel there. So those are the 5 books that I read this week. I will link them all down below, and I will link my Goodreads if you want to become my friend on there. Let me know what you guys have been reading, and if you guys have been reading anything for Christmas to get kind of prepared for the holiday. And I will see you guys all in my next one. Bye.